talk now. This MMA, what we talking about? Yeah, you tuned into the pod now. Gonna be hard for you to stop now. Yeah, we caged in. Yeah, we caged in. Yeah, we caged in.
Welcome back to another episode of Caged In. I'm your host, Chris DiCarlo. Today we got a very special guest making his return to the show, but first time in person, my guy Jay Curley. How we doing today, brother?
I'm great. How are you, Chris?
I'm good, man. Thanks for coming by, man. Helping me break in the new studio a little bit. I've only had Valdina here before. You're the second guest coming in, man. I appreciate you making the trip.
Word.
Of course, it's been a little bit since we've talked. You know, it's been a year since you fought. You're
Yeah.
getting ready to go in July
That's right.
for another Cage Titans amateur welter title fight, man. Has super exciting stuff. The last one you were in was an absolute barn burner. I definitely want to talk to you about that one, man. But first and foremost, how's everything feeling, man? How's life, man? Catch me up, man. What's new?
So I just graduated college right at the end of May. Since then, I've just been working and training. You know, I got a full-time job now. I work in like a small warehouse building gym equipment. So that's the grind during the day. And then at night, I'm just training every day. So training with Pete, training with Jair at their gyms, and you know, just getting after it. You know, it's a lifestyle thing. So, you know, I just believe if you live the grind, then it'll show, you know.
I mean, you have that college background, man. You know all about that college wrestling grind, man. So that's just another feather in your cap, and I'm sure that's kind of built your work ethic and like the mentality that you carry with you into this MMA journey you're chasing too, man.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of like a nonstop thing. Like, you know, guys have their fight camps and then they, you know, they kind of relax on the outside. Not me, you know, 9 months out of the year, these past 4 years, I'm wrestling. I'm in the wrestling room every day. And then when I'm not wrestling, I'm in the MMA gym, in the jiu-jitsu gym, just constantly working, trying to stay grinding, you know.
For sure, man. Let's talk about what's going on next, man. You got Cage Titans 72 going in there versus Gavin O'Connell. Like I said, another amateur welterweight title fight. Let's talk about your last one, though, man. Cage Titans 66. You go in there versus Ozzy Martin for the vacant, you know, amateur welterweight title. Unfortunately, things don't go your way. You dropped that 1 round TKO. But talk to me about the fight, man. It's been a year. You've had some time to reflect on it. How do you feel about the fight? How do you feel about your performance now that you've had some time?
You know, I go back and forth a lot, you know. I mean, it was tough. I feel like the biggest thing was I didn't prepare the right way. Not like it's an excuse, because that's part of the game, you know. Part of the game is preparation. I think that's honestly all of it, pretty much, you know. Sure. Like when the night of the fight comes, you know, you're basically just press and play and seeing what happens. So, you know, I was super anxious. You know, I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I ended up losing too much weight, and, you know, it affected my weight cut, and I was small going in the cage, the smallest I've ever been. Didn't feel, you know, 100%. And obviously, you know, Ozzy prepared. Like, he was big. He had a great game plan, and you know, it's tough. You know, afterwards, you know, my mom, she doesn't like the fighting thing. She's my biggest supporter, but she's not like, you know, she doesn't like to see her son go out there and,
of course,
and get after it like that. So it was tough, you know, going up and having to call her and, you know, tell her, you know, the tough news, you know. But I'll never forget that feeling, and I'm gonna try to make sure that never happens again, you know.
For sure, man. The walkouts for that fight were insane. The energy, and that was one of the biggest Cage Titans cards that we've ever had. And for you guys to be like an amateur fight, blowing the roof off that place like you did, just even before you guys even walked into the cage, were you able to feel that energy inside the hall? And even when you were in the cage fighting, were you able to feel that buzz that was going on there that night?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely like different from wrestling. You know, when it's funny when you hit a guy, or when you get hit, and hearing the whole crowd like erupt is definitely cool, and also not cool when you're the one getting hit. But you know, it's kind of one of those moments where you're just like, you can't even remember it. It's like, you know, I remember it was pretty crazy, but, you know, every walkout so far has been pretty crazy. I expect the same thing at this next fight. So you know, it's just part of the game. I love it, though. That's why I love it so much.
For sure, man. Obviously, it's no secret that the wrestling is kind of your bread and butter. We knew that was going to be a big part of your game plan versus Ozzy. You were able to take him down in the first round, in the beginning of the round, and at the end of the round. Looking back on your performance as a whole, what do you think you did well, and then what do you wish that you did better as far as the fight performance goes?
I think I did really good with, like, you know, I would always I would initiate a lot of stuff. Like, I would initiate a takedown or something like that. It's just the follow through. I gotta have more follow through and, you know, relax more. You know, me and Pete have been working on relaxing on the feet, and working on the striking a lot. Basically, like, so that I'm not anxious when I'm in the cage. I was just trying to get him, get him last time, and he was doing the same thing. We went pretty crazy that first round. It was all over the place, but obviously, in the second round, he had figured out his method, and I was still just going nuts, and we were trying to take each other's heads off, and one guy has got to go, so it was me.
Yeah, it was a fun one, man, for those 2 rounds, and like I said, the crowd was going crazy, and the fact that that was one of the biggest cards in Cage Titans history, for that to kind of like kick off, the main card of all the pro fights, man, it was just a great way to go in. Unfortunately, the fight doesn't go your way, and it's a little bit cliche to say, but like with every loss, there does come a lesson.
Yeah.
What are the lessons that you learned from this one? Now having the time to reflect.
I've definitely realized that, like, it felt kind of weird, like, you go back and you think to yourself, like, is this really what I want to do? And like, for example, I was going on a run every single day around town, and everybody, gets kind of the idea after a while when they see you running every day, like what you're working towards, and like it's a good feeling. And then my whole leg, he tore my leg up. The whole back of my leg, from like my heel to my ass cheek, was literally purple. Damn. And I could barely walk. But the next day after the fight, I went out, ran like 7.5 miles, because I thought to myself, like, what kind of example would it be setting to everybody around, like, my town and stuff. I know that I have kids that are going to Mansfield High School right now, and like probably maybe even younger, that are like watching what I'm doing, and that's not the kind of example that I want to set. I don't want to be the kind of guy that went out there and lost one fight and then that was it. Like, I don't let those kinds of things deter me. I still try to learn from my mistakes and stuff, but like I'll never like give up, and I'm never nothing. Even this fight, win or lose, I know who I am, and I'm still gonna go out there and keep grinding, and I think that's what's gonna overall lead to my success. So
yeah, man, beautifully said, man. That's a great mentality to have, brother. And especially that mentality right there will carry you a long way as well. So keep up that mentality and keep up that headspace, man, because you obviously have a bright future in the sport, man, and one loss doesn't deter you, man. So I'm glad to see you got your stuff back together, and we're getting ready to go for another one, man. It's awesome.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Let's talk about your training camp a little bit, man. I know you have a plethora of gyms that you go to. I know you're at Morzelli's. I know you're at Mom's Basement, Hook and Roll, New England Cartel. What do each of these gyms bring into your training camp, and then how do you kind of bouncing between all of them?
So this camp specifically, I've been mostly training with at Jair's gym and with Pete. Pete, we're kind of like a traveling circus. We get our work in where we can. So I've been all over the place. We've been training like at parks and parking lots, and anywhere that we can, just hitting pads, and those sessions, they kill you. Pete doesn't kiss anybody's ass, so like he'll tell you straight up like what you need to do, and so that work on the feet is probably the biggest jump that I've made. And at Jair's gym, we're working on situational stuff, like a lot more like transitions and solidifying positions, stuff like that. Overall, I'm just trying to stay consistent and keep grinding throughout all this work and everything that I got to do, and I just have a good feeling that it's going to end up my way this time.
Of course, man. And I know you got a teammate on the card as well, Joe Poirier. What's it like being in camp with another guy that's kind of training towards the same goal? You guys are kind of helping each other, iron sharpens iron. You guys are getting ready for the same day. How is it to just have somebody else in the gym with you preparing for the same time frame?
Yeah, it's great to lead or to follow Joe's example, and like guys like Valdina and even Jack Congdon's been in the gym, John Campa. Those kinds of guys, to be able to pick their brains, guys that have more experience than me, I'm extremely grateful to always be around them. Guys like Joe and Valdina, they really make sure that you keep your head on the right way, and like, tell you like, you're doing the right thing or you're not doing the right thing. So I appreciate those guys for stuff like that.
Definitely, man. And how has training camp just been as a whole, man? How's the body feeling? We're a few weeks out. Just give me like the rundown on, man, on how you're just feeling overall.
I feel great. I feel a lot better than last time. I'm not feeling as anxious or anything. I'm a little bigger now. I'm like 188. I'm not like, last time I was walking around like 178 at this time. I barely had to cut any weight, but I'm trying to stay big. My endurance is still great. So overall, I'm not taking this fight lightly, but I feel great right now.
Good, man. I love to hear that. And it, like we mentioned before, it has been a year since we've seen you last, but I know it's not like you weren't, out for a year not doing anything. You were in college wrestling, and I know you just finished up your college wrestling career. Can you just reflect on just your college wrestling career as a whole, man, now that's come to an end, now you have some time to look back and reflect on it. Like, how much has that meant to you? And now that it's over, man, are you going to miss, the grind, or what are you looking forward to the most now that that's kind of behind you?
Yeah, it is really tough. It's like it was my whole entire life. Since I was like 11 years old, I've been wrestling. So, my college wrestling career, yeah, I unfortunately didn't peak at the end of my career, which was kind of something weird to me because literally my whole entire career, I was going up, 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 all the way up until my second to last year of college. I qualified for the national tournament, and once I found out that I was wrestling one more year, it was like, let's go back and let's All American. Didn't go my way. I didn't even make it to the national tournament, and I worked even harder than the year before. So it's kind of one of those things. It was heartbreaking, and it proves that like, you might love the sport, but the sport doesn't love anybody back. Like it doesn't give you anything. The only thing you deserve is what you earn. So my last wrestling season didn't go the way I wanted it to, and I'm extremely bitter about it. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna carry that with me, and I'm gonna keep that bitterness, that chip on my shoulder forever, pretty much.
Yeah, man, just carry that right into your MMA career, man. You can just carry that right into the next thing.
That's right.
Let's talk about the reason we're here, man. Cage Titans 72. You're going in there versus Gavin O'Connell again for the vacant welterweight, amateur title. What do you know about this guy, man? And then how do you feel about him as an opponent?
There's I'm thankful that there's a lot of there's film out there on him. He's got 6 fights. I only have 3 fights, and he even fought recently. So I fought a year ago. He fought a month ago. So getting to see that film from like a month ago is good stuff. I know that he has some good grappling. He has some grappling finishes. I know that he's been knocked out, and I'm gonna take that information and do with it what I can. I feel confident. I don't think it's definitely not the same as like a guy like Ozzy, but I still think that this is a fight that you absolutely can't take lightly, and that I could get caught at any moment just like anybody. So I'm gonna do my best to stay calm, cool, collected when I'm in the cage, and I think it's gonna go my way.
Awesome, man. And then you mentioned watching the tape on him. So stylistically, when you break this thing down, your skills versus his, discipline versus discipline, where do you see yourself having the advantages? And is there anywhere that you think he might be able to give you some trouble?
I don't know him that well, but I think that it's kind of the lifestyle thing, like kind of a shooter's mindset. Like I go out there to kill every single fight, and I think that he's a good MMA fighter. But like I think in general, like I'm a fighter. Like no matter what it is, no matter where I go, I'm always fighting to win. I'm extremely competitive, and I'm not scared of anything, anybody. That's why I went out there and challenged Ozzy. Like I'm looking for the hardest fight all the time, and I don't know if he's that way. Maybe he is, but I don't know him that well. But like I think that could be something that sets us apart. I know that he has good jiu-jitsu. I'm working on my jiu-jitsu every day too, and I think that I don't know if there's going to be anything that he could bring to the table to really put me away. I think that overall that I'm going to have the advantage pretty much anywhere.
Man. Hell yeah. And you mentioned his experience. He's the most experienced fighter that you fought.
Yep.
What do you bring to the table that's something that maybe he hasn't seen yet in his 6 amateur fights?
Well, I've been working on my striking. I think it's the physicality. I think that, the athleticism. I think he's fought some good fighters but I've been training, my whole life since I was about 11 years old when I started wrestling. I've been competing man to man. I've probably had over 1,000 wrestling matches in my whole career. And, even though it's 3 MMA fights, but, being one-on-one with another guy, fighting for everything is not something rare to me. Like that's something that, sometimes I've done 6 times in one day.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, I know that he does jiu-jitsu on the side. He's done competitions like that, and all in respect to him because, I know he's a good jiu-jitsu competitor, but I don't know if he's competed as much as I have man to man.
For sure. And this Cage Titans amateur welterweight title, just thinking of like the lineage that's gone through it, like looking back at Brody and Ozzy, banger. Jay Curley versus Ozzy, banger. Now we got Jay Curley versus Gavin O'Connell. Can we expect this one to kind of follow that path or that pattern that's kind of been taking place these last few Cage Titans amateur welterweight fights and get another banger out of you guys?
Yeah, I think that no matter what happens, there's just something in the air at Plymouth Memorial Hall. Everybody knows that, but I think that it's going to be another good one. I think that I'm planning on bringing like the same crowd that I always do, and I bet you he'll bring a crowd too. And I'm hoping for a similar atmosphere to the last one.
For sure, man. You mentioned the crowd. I was going to ask you about that because you always pack the house. Your fans are raucous, man. They get the place pumping. It's always loud, and you're slowly building like a newer fan base inside the hall as well. So are you expecting, you know, all the boys to show up again and blow the roof off this place?
Yeah, so I mean, like, it's funny because it's just like the groups that I've got with me. You know, I have like my wrestling team that always pulls up, the college wrestling team. I have my boys from home who are also nuts. You know, they love the stuff. I've got my family; they're always there. And now I'm guessing, you know, there's some people in Plymouth that are starting to catch on, and they're starting to become fans. So I'm very grateful that, like, you know, what I'm doing right now is getting some attraction. But at the end of the day, you know, it is just you and that guy locked in there. So when the day comes, I try to block that stuff out, and I'm extremely thankful for like all the support. But I try to block that stuff out when the day comes, and just focus on the guy in front of me.
100%, man. And, you know, I got to ask you before I let you go, man, what can the fans inside Plymouth Memorial Hall expect from the return of Jay Curley on July 19th?
A more confident, bigger, stronger, faster, more well-prepared fighter. You know, last time it kind of feels almost like I went from being a boy to a man, you know, like when I fought Ozzy, even though, you know, he is younger than me, like I was fighting a man that night, and I came to realize, you know, like it's time to step it up. It was a good wake-up call, so I'm awake now and ready to go.
Awesome, man. Jay, I appreciate you coming over, man, taking the time, talking to me. Very excited to see you get back in action on July 19th. Hopefully you won't be taking one fight every year, man. Now that your college is over, hopefully we start seeing you some more.
Yeah, no,
Is that part of the plan, man? Is that part of the plan? You know, more fights, more activity?
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to be fighting, hopefully, you know, as many cards as I can going forward.
Awesome, man. I love to hear that. Before I let you go, where can the people come find you on social media, man? Anybody you want to thank? Anybody you want to shout out, man? Now's your time.
Well, I wanted to say thank you for having me, Chris. They can find me anywhere just by name, Jaden Curley, just about everywhere on social media. Shout out to Two Fight Bros, New England Pressure Pros, First Team New England, Oddfellows Barbershop, Foxfield Auto, and Good Guys Moving. Those are all my sponsors that keep, you know, the 508 Fight Club alive.
Hell yeah.
And shout out to my friends and family. They do, you know, the support they give me is insane, you know, like especially my mom, you know. She doesn't like what I'm doing, but like for her to be able to put it all on the line and like support what I'm doing, you know, she's taking a bigger risk than me. Like, you know, I love doing this stuff and she doesn't, but she's always there for me and making sure that I have everything I need during fight camp and, you know, always supporting me. So I thank her a lot for that.
Awesome, man. That's good to hear. Well, once again, Jay, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it. I'll see you in the building July 19th.
Of course. Thank you, Chris.
Got down for the count and he can't even talk now. This MMA, what we talking about? Yeah, you tuned into the pod now. Gonna be hard for you to stop now. Yeah, we caged in. Yeah, we caged in. Yeah, we caged in.